Good afternoon, folks. Right. Synthetic food is being touted as the next big step in human evolution. So could it be that agriculture is about to be the next video easy, blindsided by online streaming and unable to move with the times? As Nuffield scholars striving for continuous improvement in the primary sector, are we really wasting our time here, tinkering at the edges of an industry that's about to be completely disrupted? Will farming be reduced to a tourist attraction where people take selfies and laugh about the struggles of the previous generation? And as a farmer striving to build a business for my family on the land, is the rug about to be pulled out from beneath me? These aren't actually the questions that I set out to answer when I started my Nuffield journey in late 2015. To be honest, as a hands-on farmer, I just wanted to discover a robot that could replace my cows. With all the advancements in technology and the challenges that we face in agriculture, surely one day we'll be able to come up with a machine that you could just stuff grass on one end and milk can come out the other, and you wouldn't have to worry about getting crapped on or kicked at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, brilliant, this is a goer. So unfortunately, what I soon discovered is that the robot doesn't exist, and if anything, the synthetic food movement isn't actually trying to work with agriculture at all. Most people involved with synthetic food actually think that agriculture is the lead cause of most of the world's problems and are pretty keen to come up with an alternative. Perhaps rather naively, this didn't really sink in until I got onto the other side of the world, and by that stage it was a bit late to turn around and come home again. The following few months were actually pretty tough for me. I found it really challenging as I met with young, educated, worldly people who all seemed to share a similar view that agriculture, was unsustainable, and this post-animal economy is going to be the way of the future. I chose not to challenge their opinions as I went. I decided instead that I'll just try and take it all on board to better understand their view of the world. In doing so, though, I really started to challenge my own worldview to the point where I came back to calving in July in 2016, and I was asking myself, what the hell am I doing here? But I am still here, and I'm about to go into another calving season. And despite being told that I have my head in the sand, I would argue that Nuffield has opened my eyes, and I now have my feet more firmly on the ground than I did before. It's taken me a couple of years and a lot of pondering, but I now have some key findings, and I've formed a bit more of a stance on the world of synthetic food. So just that we're on the same page before I get into my findings, I consider the threats and opportunities in synthetic food mostly in a New Zealand pastoral grazing context, so basically milk and meat from grazing animals. And I use the term synthetic food to describe products that are being made or are planning to be made to mimic animal products without the use of animals to begin with. So there's other terms, and I think it's been mentioned already, alternative proteins seem to be a bit more commonly used, but at the time that term wasn't really around, so I just used synthetic food as the umbrella term to cover the whole field. I looked at a range of different production techniques, right from taking plants and making existing products, the likes of soy milk, margarine, right through to veggie burgers, and some older products, some existing, some emerging products, and then right through to the more futuristic products, the cell cultured meat or the in vitro meat and the cell cultured milk products, which aren't necessarily here yet. But I looked at them all and found that there was actually some common themes right throughout all of them that which I sort of took information away and drew on. So this leads me to my first finding. Not all intentions behind synthetic food are so noble. I identified 6 key drivers behind synthetic food, and of these you could probably describe population growth actually as more of a cause, I guess. The new technology would be more of an enabler, and the environmental one and the nutrition, I guess, they would be the noble intentions. To me, animal welfare is a bit of a grey area, to be honest. Many of the people who I interviewed were vegan, and while I respect their views on the use of animals, I don't necessarily agree with them, along with the majority of the world. At times, I got the impression that what was being dressed up as a noble quest to save the planet was actually an argument rooted in animal welfare rights ideals. After reflecting on many great farming communities that I visited on our Nuffield travels and a lot of great food that I ate, I came to the conclusion that animals actually form a vital part of civilization. They're part of our culture, they're part of our diet, and in some cases they're also used as a currency. While we were in Kenya, for example, we were offered 10 cows for Anna Jones, who was a good-looking young Kiwi UK scholar that was travelling with us. We didn't take it, but she was really good at asking questions, so we kept her. So the financial driver, the last one, isn't so grey. The venture capital market, which is fueling much of the growth in synthetic food, is actually quite black and white. It's driven by the prospect of making a lot of money in a short space of time, and there's plenty of examples of this. Impossible Foods, the maker of a plant-based burger, raised $182 million in its first 4 funding rounds. It's just crazy, crazy money. Once a few big investors like Bill Gates take a punt, others see it as a sure thing and they pile on in behind them. There's little noble intention within the venture capital market. Most of it's just a desire to get rich quick. My second finding is that even though some products aren't even on the market yet, their developers would have you believe through their marketing that their products are far superior to the ones that they're actually trying to replace. Perfect Day Foods is a good example of this. And while these claims have since been actually taken down from their website, they were up there for the first couple of years of their existence. As a farmer who strives to maximise resource use efficiency, this really grabbed my attention right from the start. I just thought, looking at this is incredible stuff. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of consumers have looked at this and done the same thing. They've seen that and then tweeted about it or told all their friends about it. The question I had is this, for real? Can these people really produce milk with 80% less energy, 65% less greenhouse gas emissions, and 98% less water? If they can, brilliant. Let's all just give up, hang up the gumboots now, sort of thing, and give up. But that's the question I had. And well, it turns out that if you make a lot of assumptions around a production process that doesn't exist yet, you exclude the requirements of infrastructure in your life cycle analysis, you assume that you'll be able to use 100% renewable energy, and then you compare it to a relatively resource-hungry confinement system from a generic database, then, well, you may be the case. But when I was lucky enough to get some figures from a more recent study that was done on this perfect day process, and I got the real numbers behind it, and when I actually lined them up against some figures from a study out of Lincoln University on the emissions of a New Zealand dairy farm, the numbers look quite different. And compared to New Zealand dairy production, the modelled cell culturing process is in fact more resource intensive and probably uses more arable land. We don't get told about that. I'd refer back to the food miles debate and think how quickly that was put to bed when it was discovered that the emissions involved in getting our product to the other side of the world were actually less than the emissions spent of the person driving to the supermarket in London to get their product. It got dismissed pretty quick, and I just really wonder how much interest and hype would be around Perfect Day Foods if this slide was on their website instead of the original one. This leads me to my third finding, which is that I don't actually believe that the highly manufactured synthetic foods will actually ever compete on cost, despite most commentators claiming that they will. The experts on disruption would argue that there will be many innovations to come which will drive down the cost of production exponentially. I would argue that we're all bound by physics and there's no such thing as a free lunch. We're not talking about a floppy disk that was replaced with a CD or a video store that was replaced by Netflix. We're talking about the creation of food. I'm not a nutritionist, but I know that in order to make food, you need an energy source and you need some raw materials. There's a really common quote which by Winston Churchill. It's 70 years old now, but it still gets bandied about that. We shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or wing. And it's often referred to in the synthetic food space. I'd just like to point out there's a more recent article from Caroline Maddock, who's a lead researcher on the production efficiency of synthetic foods, where she states that this new technology basically replaces biological processes with chemical and mechanical ones, so it has the potential to increase industrial energy consumption and consequently greenhouse gas emissions. So it turns out that the skin on an animal actually works as quite a good insulating layer. The immune system is quite good for fighting disease, and the reproductive system is a great and cheap way of building new infrastructure. Who'd have thought? Needless to say, pasture-fed beef wasn't included in this study, and it was me that added the last bar on the graph showing that it's actually much more efficient than these novel processes. Now, I'm quite conscious that I'm starting to sound a bit negative about synthetic food. It wasn't how I set out, and at risk of sounding like a bit of a doomsdayer, I'd like to change tack a wee bit for now. Even though I stand by my findings, synthetic food has highlighted that people aren't entirely happy with agriculture, and I've come to the conclusion that a stance based on just denial doesn't really help anyone. Food production is recognised as a major global cause of pollution and resource depletion. Sure, you could argue that people are actually the problem, but ultimately we're the ones making the stuff, so we have to take some responsibility if we want to remain relevant. To be honest, I don't think there's many direct opportunities for pastoral farmers within the synthetic food movement at the moment. There may be for cereal guys. But as an industry, I think we can learn a lot from what's unfolding and take some steps to being part of the solution. One step might be as simple as measuring and reporting our food production based on a new set of indices. Most of us know what our milk production is per hectare or our cost per kg of carcass weight, but how many of us know what our carbon emissions are, what our water use is? I know I don't. Alongside animal welfare, I think these will be the yardstick that the educated consumer will use in the future to make the decisions around food. And while I'm pretty sure New Zealand's got a good story to tell, I think we need to start backing it up with some numbers. Another steps, maybe slightly controversial, might be to start our own synthetic food ranges. This could why not have the likes of an Anchor soy range or a Silver Fern veggie burger? I realise it would be a hard sell for a shareholder of the co-ops, as to shareholders of our co-ops to launch a product that effectively competes with their own, but I think it's actually the way to go. It's not about departing from our core business, it's about staying relevant and giving consumers what they want. The message to consumers would be, hey, these guys are actually looking after me by catering to our needs. And at the end of the day, if we don't do it, someone else is going to do it anyway. Coca-Cola was founded on selling fizzy drinks, but now it sells water, juice and milk. Shell Petroleum, which obviously sells oil, has preempted the move to electric vehicles and now has charging stations right throughout Europe. It's not our job to convince a vegan to eat animal products, but we could make it our job to give them an alternative. So these are just a couple of ideas, and it's great to see that the likes of beef and lamb are doing some real heavy thinking on the topic with their recent report. I haven't talked to everyone, but I know Dairy NZ have been pondering for a while now too, and Fonterra is also considering the best way forward. So in conclusion, synthetic foods have been here for a while now. They're part of life already, so they're here to stay, whether we like it or not. No one really knows what's around the corner, I don't think, but I don't also think that the rug's about to be pulled out from underneath us, even if the rug is made of synthetic carpet.